What if you could get a peek inside the private diary of the most powerful person on the planet? Not a polished memoir, but their raw, unfiltered thoughts on how to deal with stress, duty, and just the chaos of daily life. Well, that's exactly what we have with the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. So let's crack open the private journal of an emperor and see what his ancient wisdom can teach us about finding peace in our own crazy world.
This right here, this single sentence, is pretty much the key to his entire philosophy. He wasn't interested in just talking about ideas or theories. For him, philosophy was a verb. It was a call to action. It's not about what you say you believe. It's about who you choose to be, every single moment.
And you've got to remember the context here. The book we call the Meditations, well, it was never meant for us. This was his personal journal, just a bunch of notes Marcus wrote to himself while he was on military campaigns. Likely in a tent on the freezing cold frontiers of the Roman Empire. This was self-coaching in like the highest stakes environment you can possibly imagine.
And that's what's so wild. You can just collapse 2,000 years of history in an instant. Despite all the power, the purple robes, Marcus Aurelius was wrestling with the exact same fundamental questions we all face. This isn't just some dusty old text. It's a timeless guide to being human, written by a guy who really, truly understood pressure on a global scale.
So how did he tackle these huge questions? Well, he started by zooming way, way out. He wanted to find our place not just in society, but in the entire cosmos.
The whole thing starts with this one foundational idea. You are not an island. You're part of this huge, interconnected system that Marcus called nature, or the whole. Think of yourself not as a separate thing, but more like a single cell in a much, much larger organism.
And that leads to a pretty radical conclusion. If you can accept that you're part of a larger whole, and that the whole system is working for its own good, then anything that serves the whole can't really be harmful to you, the part. It's a really powerful way to reframe everything we might call bad luck.
So where does that logic lead? To one powerful idea: acceptance. It's a kind of deep trust in the universe. If everything that happens is just one thread in a much bigger tapestry, then you can learn to be content with whatever comes your way, knowing it serves some purpose way beyond what you can see right now.
He used this really beautiful, poetic image to constantly remind himself of another cosmic truth. Our lives, our worries, our big wins, they're all just as natural and fleeting as leaves getting blown around in the autumn wind.
The meaning couldn't be clearer. The good times, they'll pass. The bad times, they'll pass too. Even you will pass. And look, this isn't meant to be depressing. It's meant to be totally liberating. It frees you from clinging too tightly when things are good or despairing too much when things go wrong. Okay, so if everything outside of us is temporary and just part of some bigger plan, where does our power actually lie? This brings us to the absolute heart of Stoicism, mastering your inner world. Marcus called it building your inner citadel.
This right here splits reality in two. Marcus says you absolutely cannot control external events. They just happen. Rain happens. Traffic happens. But what you always have 100% control over is your opinion, your judgment about those events. Like he wrote, it's your opinion that makes something endurable. That, right there, is your superpower.
And the goal of this whole practice is a virtue he called equanimity. Now, this isn't about being emotionless or becoming a robot. It's a kind of calm, composed strength that comes from voluntarily accepting your fate, whatever it is, because you trust it's part of that bigger, natural order.
So what was he even aiming for with all this self-coaching? He actually gave himself a list of traits to embody, kind of like a character sheet for the ideal Stoic. He was constantly telling himself to be rational, to show equanimity, to be magnanimous. These were the goals of all his inner work.
But all this inner strength isn't just for your own personal peace. Marcus was super clear that as rational beings, we're also social beings. He wrote that we are literally made for cooperation, like the two rows of teeth, upper and lower. Working against each other is totally against our nature.
And this idea completely reframes how you deal with difficult people. Getting angry is useless. Your first job is to try and teach them, kindly. And if you can't, well then the failure is in your ability to communicate, not in their mistake. It's this powerful move that turns blame into self-reflection and responsibility.
He even gives us a practical step-by-step exercise for this. The next time you're offended by what someone did, immediately turn inward. Ask yourself, okay, in what way am I like this? When have I been greedy or arrogant or dishonest? He says that when you realize you share the same human flaws, your anger just vanishes.
So, we've got the cosmic view, the focus on our inner world, and our duty to others. How do we put it all into practice? Well, for Marcus, this was the entire point. Stoicism is a way of living, not just a way of thinking.
We can basically distill all his advice into a simple daily practice. When you feel anger, look for your own flaws. When you're confused by someone's actions, try to understand what's motivating them. And in everything you do, just let reason be your guide and act with a calm sense of purpose. And this brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? The ultimate lesson from the Emperor's private journal is this powerful command. All the reading and thinking in the world means nothing without action. The goal isn't to know what a good person is, it's to be one. So I'll leave you with a question, inspired by the Emperor himself. Look at your life right now, at all the things that cause you frustration or stress. What is one thing, just one, that is completely outside of your control, that you can choose to voluntarily accept, starting at this very moment?